recording? Yes, we are. Hello. Oh, nope. Haha. Hello. Now you can hear me. Hi. How are you? I promised that the internalism and externalism videos would be split. There'd be one on internalism and one on externalism, even though there's just one reading. Why? Because I'm eccentric that way. I'm a madcap. I'm an an imp, a puka, uh, that too. Um, okay, so yeah, so I'm gonna get you through. I'm gonna give a quick little recap on internalism, and then talk about how and why this moves us into externalism. Okay, so internalism, the basic formulation of internalism is that the justification, in order to for a belief that you have to be justified, you must have internal access to the reasons that justify that belief. So, in other words, I can't just say, you can't say, oh, why do you believe that? And I say, I don't know. Then the belief isn't justified on an internalist account. I can't just be like, you can't be like, oh, well, why do you believe that? And I'm like, as far as I know, I believe it because I touched a live wire and nearly shocked myself to death, and this idea just came into my head. Um, yeah, that won't work either. So you have to have internal access to your reasons. Um, well, I'll get back to that in a second. But yeah, you have to have internal access to your reasons. Okay, that's the basic formulation. Now, the basic formulation runs into a problem with Pyrrhonian skepticism. I talked about this last time. Pyrrhonian, Pyrrhonian skepticism. Um, Pyrrhonian skepticism is just the regress problem. The idea that um, if my belief requires another belief to justify it, then what justifies that belief? Well, another belief, presumably. What justifies that belief? Well, okay, another belief, at least one, presumably. And so on and so on and so on and so on and so forth. And either it goes on forever, and you have to have an infinite number of beliefs to justify any belief at all. I look at the clock, and it's 9:58 p.m. Why do you believe it's 9:58 p.m., Dr. Black? Well, bleh, infinite number of beliefs. That doesn't feel right. Um, the other alternative is that at some point you just stop with a belief. It's like, well, why do you believe that? And I go, because I do. And you have an unjustified belief. And if you have an unjustified belief, then the foundation, this is also called foundationalism, the foundation of the whole thing, hang on a second, the cat is being back. Okay, alright, sorry. He's, he's a bad one sometimes. Anyway, where was it? Oh, right, this is congregationalism. If you get to the point where there's an unjustified belief, then the whole congregation for the whole chain of reasoning is bad, and it doesn't hold. The example there would be like I look at the clock and it says 9:59 p.m. And so I believe it's just 9:59 p.m. Why do you believe that? And I'm like, well, I believe the evidence of my senses. Oh, well, why do you believe the evidence of your senses? Oh, because I had a dream once, and it told me I should. Or because a guy once threatened me and told me to beat the shit out of me if I didn't believe the evidence of my senses. Like, bad reason to believe something. So therefore the whole chain is tainted. Anyway, so that's the Cronian skepticism problem with the basic formation of internalism. Okay. The answer to this is to the one of the moves you can make, and a common move is to distinguish sensory experiences as something other than beliefs. Um, I can have beliefs about my sensory experiences, but the sensory experience itself is not a belief, it's just a sensory experience. Why does that help? Well, because then we can categorize beliefs about your sensory experiences as what we call basic beliefs, a special category of belief with special rules for justification. And the idea is that any belief which is basic is self-justifying. Why do you believe that? I just do. It's a basic belief. Um, and that's okay under this theory. Okay, so there's a basic belief. Um, okay. Uh, all right. Some people like that. Some people don't. Whatever. Um, but it is a common move. The idea that there are self-justifying beliefs. Like, for instance, and it's not a completely bonkers move. It sounds very arbitrary. But what would let me throw this at you. What would you need to form the belief? What would justify forming the belief that you are hungry? What would justify forming the belief that you are hungry? Well, I think just feeling hungry, right? Like, that's enough. Like, it's enough. It's enough to justify the belief that you're hungry if you feel hungry. So it's enough to justify the belief that it's it feels warming here to you, that you feel warm. That's enough. Um, it's enough to justify the belief that I'm seeing what appears to be a tree. Uh, if I have the sensory experience of a tree, the visual experience of a tree, that's enough. That doesn't mean that there is a tree. It means that I have a visual experience of a tree, and therefore I can reasonably form the belief that I am seeing what looks like a tree. Now, all you have to do, if you have that and you don't have to justify it, all you have to do is tack on some additional beliefs that come from other places, like generally my senses work, um, and I don't think most of the things I see that look like trees are trees rather than fakes of some kind. Um, and all you have to do is tack on some other beliefs, and now you can reasonably claim that you have a belief that there is a tree. So that all seems very elementary. None of this sounds banana pants. None of this sounds cuckoo or from Agalakil or anything. Um, so this whole foundation, basic beliefs idea, it may seem arbitrary, and it may seem like the kind of thing that isn't. It may seem like the kind of thing that feels like, well, that doesn't seem fair. You can't do that just to get out of having a problem. And, I'm not sure it is all that unfair. I'm not sure it's the kind of thing that really is a problem. Uh, it's pretty plausible to me. So that's one way that you can rescue internalism. Okay, good so far. So internalism's okay. We don't need to talk about externalism. Video over, right? No? Shit. Okay. Well, damn it. fortunately, 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 there's another problem. Um, I say that like I'm getting paid by the minute, right? Thank God there's another problem. I can keep talking. It's money in the bank. I don't get paid any extra to make these videos. I do them because I love you. Um, I already told you what time it is. It's late. I'm getting tired. Anyway, okay. There is another problem that internalism runs into, though. So we've taken care of the regress problem. That's fine. Now, so what I need my beliefs to be justified by other beliefs, reasons. In other words, there are other beliefs. I need my beliefs to be justified by other beliefs unless they're basic, but we're not talking about basic beliefs right now. Okay. That clearly isn't enough. That clearly isn't enough. That formulation is not sufficient because we know it's not sufficient because um, not every belief that has other beliefs sort of backing it up uh, is actually justified. Like, for instance, um, let's say that I tell you, let's say I tell you something about philosophy, and you believe it, and someone says, well, "Why do you believe it?" And you're like, "Well, because Dr. Black is a professor, and they know what they're talking about." Okay, that's a good reason to believe the thing I told you. But if it weren't true, that wouldn't be a good reason to believe it, would it? Well, let's skip back for a moment. Let's just go to crappy reasons in general. How about I believe that I can fix the computer if it breaks? Oh, why do you believe that? Oh, because I am a descendant of Zeus and I have the power of lightning in my fingertips. That's a bad reason to think that I can fix the computer. But like the other example I gave, why is that a bad reason? Well, the number one thing that makes it a bad reason to believe that I can fix the computer is that it's not true. It's banana pants. It's cloud cuckoo lander stuff. It's absolute balloon juice. It's nonsense. Um, so it does not provide a good reason to believe that I can fix the computer. Just like, Dr. Black is a professor does not provide a good reason to believe what I say if I'm not actually a professor, right? Um, it appears to provide a good reason, more so than the Zeus thing. That seems less like a good reason. Um, it doesn't even look like a good reason. But the only reason, guys, got using the word reason there. The the only thing that makes us think that it's not, it's obviously not a good reason is because it's obviously untrue, right? You see what I'm saying? The truth is what matters here. The fact that the belief is true or untrue is what's really controlling whether or not it provides a good reason to believe other things. Um, okay. Why is that bad? Why is that bad for internalism? Well, here is a here's a the catch is this: truth is not in your head. Truth is an external relation. It's an objective relation of fact. It is truth is a statement about how the belief, or sorry, the proposition in my head corresponds to external reality. If the proposition in my head lines up with external reality, we say that the proposition is true. And therefore, if I'm being rational, I should probably believe it. So, okay. All things being equal, I should believe it. And if the proposition in my head does not correspond to external reality, it is untrue, and therefore I should not believe it. Okay. So far, so good. But that moves the discourse about whether a belief is justified, that is to say, whether or not I should rationally hold that belief, that moves the discourse outside of my head. What makes it rational to hold the belief? What makes it rational to hold a belief? Well, I say this reason. But the reason that rationalizes the holding of the belief, it's not just having the reason that makes holding the belief rational. I can manufacture a reason for anything. I'm good at that shit. You can be like, I just give me a belief and I'll cook up a reason for it super quick. That's probably troubling. Like that may say something very disturbing about my personality, but I can do that. I can cook up a reason for just about anything. But the having of the reason in your head, contra internalism, is not what rationalizes it. It is the fact that the reason is a good reason, is what rationalizes holding the belief. And the quote unquote good aspect, the fact that the reason is a good reason, has nothing to do with anything that's in my head. The fact that the reason is a good reason to hold something is an external relation. It has to do with the world outside of my head. Does the world outside of my head match up with the what's in my head? Yes, well then the reason is good. Okay. So, this is a much more difficult thing to repel. A much more difficult argument to turn away. And it seems to push us in the direction of the cats are making noises, sorry. It seems to push us in the direction of externalism. It seems to be saying that it seems to be saying that, I don't know if what justifies your belief is just having reasons in your head. What justifies your belief is that the fact that you have reasons is a part of the process, but the important part is what's going on outside of your head. So that pushes us towards externalism. Okay. Externalism, then, is the claim that externalism is a claim that beliefs are justified by something going on outside of your head. Now that process may end up in you having reasons internally, but that's not necessarily essential. Not for every externalist. Okay, so what do we say about that? Well, some externalists go like really far with this and are willing to claim that, well, let's start with one variety, one flavor of externalism called reliabilism. They claim that justified beliefs are reliably produced beliefs. That is, that your belief is justified if your belief is justified if the process that produced the belief is one that generally produces true beliefs of that kind, maybe. Okay. Um, well, okay, that sounds reasonable enough. Why wouldn't that be? Why would that be a problem? Well, because it means that what's going on in our heads isn't what's going on in our heads isn't really relevant to whether the belief is justified. I can have a belief and what I think are a litany of good reasons to hold that belief and I can be and because I'm wrong that these aren't good reasons. I think they are, but they're not. They may even appear to be good, like they really look like good reasons, but they're not good reasons. Um, yeah, I don't. I'm actually incorrect, and I'm not justified in holding the belief I hold. So I don't know. I don't have knowledge. This is troubling to people who are fans of internalism. It's troubling to them because it means that we could be stumbling around in the dark a lot of the time. That we could be that we could think we have knowledge and we don't have knowledge, and that's bad. That we don't even know when we're justified and when we're not. So is that it? Does being an externalist mean that we are doomed to accept that we'll just never know whether we have knowledge? Like that's not like we just don't know? I don't think so. That's not. I don't think that's the argument that externalists are actually offering, and certainly they don't take themselves to be offering that argument. Um, so how do they explain the fact that? How do they explain the fact that? What do they say that keeps it from being like that? That keeps us from being completely ignorant of having knowledge or not having knowledge? Well, okay. It starts with the idea. Let's say you do hold a belief that isn't justified, and you think it's justified, but you don't. It really isn't. Objectively, we're being externalist about this. Your belief is not justified. You think it is. You're wrong. You hold a belief on the basis of that. They would say you are being irrational. You are holding the belief irrationally, but you don't know you're being irrational. Okay. But what that allows them to do is to introduce a normative element to knowledge. If you're behaving irrationally, rationality is an inherently normative concept. You should behave rationally. You should hold your beliefs for good reasons. You are obligated to, in fact. Epistemically obligated to. So, what that means is, we have an obligation, an epistemic obligation, to not just have reasons in our minds, because that's fairly easy. And it's even fairly easy to have reasons that we think are good reasons. We are epistemically obligated to test and push and poke at the reasons that we think are, even the ones that we think are good reasons, to see if they really are. In other words, to continually test our belief generating mechanisms to see if they are, wait for it, reliable. Bagoosh! Reliabilism. It's a flavor of externalism. Just like Rocky Road. Also a flavor of externalism. They named the ice cream after the externalism. Morgan is saying no. I think I may have been incorrect about that. I'll wait. We'll send it to a panel of judges. See what they have to say about it. Okay. Okay. So there's nothing in externalism, because look, externalism, the concept of what is and isn't justified, the justification process takes place sort of outside your head primarily, but the end result of the process doesn't begin and end outside of your head. A reliable belief generating process does generate a belief. So the end product of that process is something in your head, which means we do have access to it. And it means we can form beliefs about it. We can form beliefs about our beliefs. So we can do some metacognition. We can do some critical thinking. We can do some second level thinking, second order thinking. We can, in other words, review the beliefs we have that act as reasons supporting other beliefs. We can review them, and we can think about where they came from, and how we got them, and why we think they're good reasons, and why we think those processes provide us with good reasons. And we can devise ways to test those processes, see if they really do reliably provide us with good reasons. And because we have an epistemic obligation to behave rationally, we can make sense of the process of epistemically pushing against our beliefs, of doing sort of all that we can to review and refine them and weed out processes that actually aren't good. Okay. Alright. So this puts us in a very different position from where we were in internalism. One of the answers to the problem of of good beliefs in internalism is to move towards epistemic virtue. How do if we only have if we can only be justified in holding a belief if there are good reasons to hold it. If we don't want to be externalists, then the other move you make as an internalist is to say, well, good reasons are reasons that you get when you're sort of trying your best epistemically. You review all the evidence, you listen to the experts, you try to be open-minded yet critical, blah, blah, blah. You did everything you should do. You behaved epistemically virtuously. Therefore, your reasons, the beliefs that you have are justified. Even if they're wrong, you didn't do anything epistemically blameworthy, so you're justified. The externalist wants to say that the problem with that is that if you are in an unlucky situation, like let's say you're a medieval doctor. I'll give you a moment to get into character. Okay. You're a medieval doctor and you want to treat a patient and you want your patient to do well. You love your patients. You're a good person. You're trying to heal them. You have gone to school for a long time. You've tried to carefully review all the evidence in front of you and evaluate it with the best, most cutting-edge techniques and ideas, the most absolutely, just the most robust concepts available to you. You've listened to expert doctors. They've taught you what to do. You're being responsible. And as a responsible, thoughtful, medieval doctor who is behaving in an epistemically virtuous fashion, you decide to pour mercury down this guy's throat. That'll heal him. Big load of mercury. Okay, for those of you who don't know, that would be fatal to anyone. Mercury is bad for you. Thank God all the thermometers are electric now, right? Electronic thermometers. Because I was just about to tell you, don't break open any thermometers and drink the contents. And then I remember nobody uses the old mercury-based thermometers anymore. Yeah, that's not a thing anymore. I remember growing up with one of those. And Mom said, don't break it and drink what's in it. And I was a little child, and I said to my mom, why would I do that? And my mom looked at me for a minute and was like, oh, okay. Anyway. One of those weird conversations. Like, I guess she thought, I should make this clear. And in the process, like, gave me entirely new ideas I never thought of. I'm like, is that a thing? And she's like, no, it's not. Please go. Okay. Anyway. So yeah, as a thoughtful medieval doctor, you're going to pour mercury down this guy's throat and kill him. Not that you know it's going to kill him. All that you're going to know is you're going to pour mercury down his throat and then he'll die. And you'll think, well, I guess I wasn't in time. Or we didn't use enough mercury. Right? More mercury next time. Write that down. Anyway. So, were you justified in holding that belief or not? Did you act rationally? God help me, an epistemic virtue theorist might say yes. You acted rationally and killed someone because you were unlucky. You were epistemically unlucky. You happen to live in a time and a place where someone who is behaving with epistemic virtue is going to get a sufficient amount of wrong information that acting in the absolute best acting with the absolute best intent, with the absolute best information available to them, they're going to kill the shit out of someone if they try to heal them. Okay. So epistemic virtue theory, which is a kind of internalism, because remember, the reasons that you have are the justification has to do with what you're doing inside. And these mental attitudes, these virtuous attitudes you're taking, are internal. They are all internal. You are approaching things with open-mindedness. You are critically reviewing your information. You are listening to experts. You are taking a mental attitude towards things in order to get your beliefs. So since you are virtuous, your beliefs are justified. That's internalism. And the problem with this flavor of internalism, this attempt to beat the problem of crappy reasons, as I like to call it, as everyone calls it, because of me, I call it that and everyone else calls it that. In order to beat the problem of crappy reasons, if you want to stay an internalist, one thing you can do is adopt epistemic virtue theory, and the problem is that we see that epistemic virtue theory will put you in a position where you're saying the doctor acted rationally and was justified, and he was just unlucky because he was just in a bad situation. Wrong time, wrong place, Buggy. Now, the externalist, the reliabilist, will say that the medieval education system, based on Aristotelian science, does not generate true beliefs. It is not a reliable mechanism for getting accurate beliefs about the world around you, or especially about medicine, about how to cure sick people. Because we're externalists, we don't have access to the justifiers, so we think we're justified and we're not. The medieval doctor believes he's justified, and he isn't, because he doesn't know Aristotelian science. Sucks the big one. He just knows that he's doing his level best. But the externalist is not a virtue theorist. The externalist says, I'm glad you're doing your best. That makes it not your fault, but it doesn't make you justified. It means that you are unjustified, you're irrational, you don't know that, and you aren't responsible for it. You couldn't have prevented it, but you're still unjustified and irrational. Why would we want that to be the outcome? Why would we want the analysis to turn that out? Well, for two reasons. First, well, let's just stick with one of those reasons. The main reason we would want the analysis to turn out that way is because we want to establish a normative force of rationality, a standard of rationality, if you will. Now, we have to acknowledge that we, right now, are setting the standard of rationality in full awareness that we might be wrong about some of our stuff, and that people in the future will look back at us and say we were just as irrational as the medieval doctor. Okay. We have to have full awareness of that. But nonetheless, that doesn't mean that we have to accept that people in times past were living in a kind of information void like the medieval doctor is, it doesn't mean that we have to accept that they were behaving rationally. We can accept that they were screwing up and that we should do better than that. Right? Like even if we're screwing up in some way we can't detect now, that doesn't stop us from saying that they were screwing up in ways that we can detect. It's kind of like there's an analogous case with moral knowledge. Um, Certainly, when I was young, there were lots of things that I just didn't understand or I didn't grasp very well in terms of right and wrong. Uh, I was a schmuck, in other words. Uh, Young people can often be moral schmucks. They think they're doing the right thing, they're doing the wrong thing. They're just really dumb about this stuff. Um, that's okay. Um, and I'm saying that right now. I'm saying I was behaving in a very morally foolish fashion. Um, the fact, even if it wasn't my fault, because I'm too young to know any better. Even if it wasn't my fault, I don't think we want to say that it's morally okay, the things I was doing. Right. I don't think we want to say that I was morally justified. I wasn't. I just didn't know any better. So I was morally unjustified. Uh, but I was not morally at fault. What's the purpose of making that distinction? Well, the purpose of making that distinction is so that I can say that so that me now I can judge my past behavior even though I know that I'm probably doing things now, right, that I'm unaware of, that I shouldn't be doing. So I acknowledge my present moral imperfection. I acknowledge my present moral imperfection, but I deny that my present moral imperfection means that I excuse my younger self. And why do I not want to excuse my younger self? Because that is the reason, that's the foundation for moral improvement, right? Why is it good to look back and think, no, I was unjustified, morally unjustified? Because that's the arc, right? That is the reason why, that is the reason for moral improvement, right? That is the whole thing. It's not equally okay for me to be the way I am now or the way that I was then. One of them is worse than the other. One of them is not a good way to be. I'm happy that I'm here now. I have improved. I am more morally rational than I was. I make better moral decisions than I used to. I may, and hopefully I will continue to improve my moral reasoning. And someday I'll look back now and be like, oh, God, I thought I knew something, but I was so dumb at 50. Right? And there are points in between. Like, yeah, when I was a kid, I made morally stupid calls. When I was 20, I looked back at the things I did when I was a kid and said, I'm glad I'm not that dumb. And then proceeded to do other dumb stuff that now I can look back on and go, oh, son of a... Right? There's steps, there's gradations, there's an arc of moral improvement. So bringing this back out of the analogy to epistemology, why wouldn't we think that the same thing applies in epistemology? Why wouldn't we think that the same thing applies when it comes to knowledge? Epistemic virtue theory says that the medieval scientist, the medieval doctor, was just as epistemically justified as a doctor now is. if they both take the same steps to make sure they get the right information. They attend the best schools. They read the latest texts. They study hard. They listen to experts. They carefully consider before choosing a course of action. They review all their options. They gather as much information about the disease as they can. The epistemic virtue theorist, the internalist, in other words, who is trying to answer the problem of crappy reasons, the epistemic virtue theorist says that the medieval doctor and the current doctor are just as equally justified. And the medieval doctor just had a run of bad luck. He happened to be born at a time and a place where doing everything you can, acting in an intellectually virtuous fashion, is going to get you bad information. And the doctor now is born in a time and a place where acting in an epistemically virtuous fashion is going to get you a lot of correct information. Okay. That's luck. The externalist, the reliabilist, says no. The reliabilist says, objectively speaking, there is a right way and a wrong way to go about this. We understand that the medieval doctor was irrational, that he was acting irrationally in a largely irrational fashion, that the things he did were unjustified. In other words, we shouldn't do them. We should not pour mercury down people's throats. They were unjustified. And that we have made progress. That this isn't a matter of luck. Luck isn't what separates the modern doctor from the medieval doctor. The hard work of people who tested and tried our belief-generating mechanisms and refined them and made them better and made them more reliable at producing true beliefs, that's what separates us from the medieval doctor. And pointing out that the medieval doctor was irrational. We can point out the ways that the medieval doctor was irrational, does not require us to think that we ourselves are not irrational in some ways. It does not require us to be perfectly rational agents to see the irrationality of someone else. All we have to do is be further along the path than him. We can say, oh, that's, they were jacked up. They were irrational, baby. And you say, oh, well, you think you're so tough. What about you? And I'm like, yeah, we're probably irrational in a lot of ways. And we're trying to work on that constantly. Research is being done as we speak, even though it's 10:43 at night. Exactly, it's not 10:43 everywhere. Ha! Time zones! We're looking at you, Indiana. Anyway, that's funny if you Google it. Okay, yeah, that's... Okay, anyway, I'm not going to bother explaining that. Anyway, yeah, you can Google it if you're interested. Anyway, the fact that we might be partially irrational now does not prevent us from observing the irrationality of agents in the past. So that's why the externalist wants to be an externalist. And reliabilism is just like the main flavor of externalism. The one that everyone likes, like chocolate. It's not to say there aren't other flavors like vanilla or key lime. chocolate. Chocolate's the one people like. That's why we might prefer an externalist, a reliabilist account, because to it allows us to explain the epistemically normative push to move from one set of reasons to another. Uh, because that's something internalism has a problem with. Uh, Either internalism, I mean, so to recap on that, to sort of bring it back, because I feel like we might have gotten lost in the weeds a little bit here. Internalism says that your belief can only be justified by reasons you have internal access to. Well, one version of that is say, okay, I've got these reasons. That's obviously not good enough. The reasons have to be good reasons. Because we all acknowledge there are conspiracy theorists and, people who think that a good reason to believe something is because it occurred to them in the shower and that's enough to believe anything. I don't know. Or that Joe Rogan said it or something. I don't know. You know, Obviously absurd things. The reasons have to be good reasons. But the goodness of a reason, either there's an internalist path or an externalist path. How do you decide whether a reason is good? If you want to stay an internalist, a reason is good if it was acquired in of epistemically virtuous fashion, if you're doing your best. But the problem with that is that you can be epistemically virtuous and terribly wrong, and you can be epistemically virtuous and pretty much right, and there's no difference between those, according to the internalist, the epistemic virtue theorist, except luck. There's no. Why would I want to? What is the normative impulse to change the way I do things, or to believe any differently than I believe now, if I'm fully justified in my beliefs? If I'm fully rational and fully justified in my beliefs, according to epistemic virtue theory, why on earth would I think I should change my beliefs? But if you think that the medieval doctor should have had different beliefs in the grand scheme of things, should have had different beliefs, and that there is a normative impulse to have better beliefs than that, even if the medieval doctor wouldn't have realized that he ought to have had better beliefs. If you want to pull way back and look at it on an objective scale and say, yeah, he didn't know any better, but that doesn't mean that there shouldn't have been efforts to do better, to improve. Then you have to go the externalist path of giving an answer to the problem of bad reasons. Okay, reasons, just having reasons isn't enough to justify. They have to be good reasons. Well, the externalist path says a reason is good if it's acquired, that is to say, a reason that can justify a belief. A reason is good if it is acquired through a reliable mechanism. That you have to get your beliefs through mechanisms that will reliably produce true beliefs. And if you hold that, then it sucks that you can be unjustified and therefore irrational without knowing it. Yeah, that sucks. But it does mean that there's an epistemic force now. There's a normative force that impels you to say that you should have better beliefs, that you should be rational, You ought to be rational. Um, and that, after just a moment's consideration, means that there is an epistemically normative force that says you should examine the reliability of your belief generating mechanisms. And you should be seeking more reliable mechanisms. And you should be testing the mechanisms you have for their reliability. And you should refine your approaches. And the externalist claims that they're the ones that have a story to tell about how scientific progress occurs. That they're the ones who have a story to tell about how we mature intellectually and gain more knowledge and are obligated to try to gain more knowledge of the world around us. That the epistemic virtue theorists, all they have is, the only story they have to tell is about whether you're lucky or unlucky in the world you're born into. How does scientific progress happen? How does the world change from one of those states to the other? Like maybe the epistemic virtue process is self-refining. I don't know. Maybe that's where they could move to. I don't know. I can see why the externalist wants to make the move that they do. There are some weird bits about reliabilism. Like the reliable, like I think I'm okay. I'm okay with saying that I'm not justified in holding a belief. I can be irrational in holding a belief and not realize it. Like I think I'm okay with that part. Like I think I'm okay with saying that the medieval doctor is being irrational and that they are unjustified and they just don't realize it. I'm not 100% sure I'm okay with that because I have sympathy for the virtue theorist who says this guy's just trying his best. He's out there, he's working hard, he's doing everything he can, and he's not murdering people, he's just trying his best. And he happens to be wrong. But I think I can reconcile myself to saying that the medieval doctor is unjustified. What I can't get on board with, or that I haven't gotten on board with yet, is the idea that let's imagine, this is a reliabilist thing, let's imagine that unbeknownst to me or anyone else on the planet, I am the only person in the world with psychic powers. And occasionally, I will have a psychic dream that will inform me of future events. Or no, even better, a psychic dream that informs me reliably about things that are taking place right now on the other side of the world. I feel like my intuition is that I should not believe the things that those dreams tell me. I shouldn't believe they're true. That's my instinct. My instinct would be that I shouldn't believe they're true because I have no reason to believe they're true. But that's an internalist instinct, right? Saying that you shouldn't believe this because you don't have internal access to any reasons that say you should. That's an internalist instinct. The externalist, the reliabilist, says you are justified in believing your psychic dreams. Even if you don't know they're psychic or reliable. Because they are reliable, objectively. Remember, the externalist is all about those objective relations. So it's a reliable source of information. It's a reliable source of beliefs. The beliefs are therefore justified. And if you did hold them, you're rational, you're justified. That doesn't feel right to me. I'm hmm? Yeah, I don't like that. I was with you. They had me. Not gonna lie, you had me in the first half. Right? I mean, I'm a little sympathetic toward the idea that the Gawker is justified. But I think I could go with them on the idea that the medieval Gawker is unjustified. I think I could go with them on that. Just because it explains the normative aspect of scientific progress. Right? That we were less rational. We are more rational now. We hope to be even more rational later. Um, and that's what keeps us moving forward. Um, Rather than hoping that continual practice of epistemic virtue will just sort of automatically put us in a background situation that is more favorable for getting knowledge, true beliefs. I'm, I'm, I feel good about the epistemic progress aspect of externalism. I feel okay about designating the medieval doctor irrational. I do not like the whole psychic dreams thing. The idea that we're rational in holding beliefs from reliable sources, even if we have no internally accessible reason to think that those sources are reliable. That does not sit well with me. Huh? Don't love it. Don't love it. My sympathies are internalist. My sympathies are towards epistemic virtue. But I see why. I see the thinking behind the moves that the externalists are making. I understand why they're making those moves and what's going on with them there. Um, and they have some appeal. Okay, hopefully that was in some way helpful. I don't know that it was. I'm trying to be nicer to myself. Can you tell I had therapy today? I'm trying to be nicer to myself, uh, and not say that I'm just an old woman rambling at you. Morgan liked it. So it must be good, because Morgan is the supreme judge of reality in all things and invariably correct. I do. All right. Yeah, have a good one. If it's late where you are, go to sleep. Bye.